Apple's foldable iPhone is no longer just a rumor in the background. It's becoming a headline product. And the latest leaks suggest Apple is preparing something very different from the foldables we've seen so far. The device being discussed most is the so-called iPhone Ultra Fold, and the most surprising part isn't only the design. It's what Apple may be willing to remove to make this foldable iPhone work. According to recent leaks and dummy unit details, the iPhone Ultra Fold looks like Apple's statement entry into the foldable phone market, less about mass adoption and more about setting a premium benchmark. Think of it as Apple's first big move to define what a high-end foldable iPhone should be, even if that means ditching features iPhone users have started to consider standard. Let's break down the leaked design, the rumored features, the potential trade-offs, and why Apple might be making these choices. First, the design. The iPhone Ultra Fold is rumored to use a book-style folding design, similar in concept to devices like the Galaxy Z Fold, but with a distinctly Apple-like goal, turning the inside screen into something closer to a small iPad. The leaked aspect ratio is the key clue here. Reports point to a wider 4.3 layout, which is much closer to iPad proportions than the tall, narrow phone-like foldable screens many competitors use. That 4:3 aspect ratio matters for real-world use. It's better for productivity, reading, split-screen multitasking, web browsing, document editing, and even video viewing in certain formats. It suggests Apple wants the iPhone Ultra Fold to feel like a hybrid, iPhone on the outside, mini iPad on the inside. Not a foldable for novelty, one designed for people who actually want to use the inner display for serious tasks. But the leaks also show something that looks unusual at first glance. Asymmetrical corners when the device is folded. On most smartphones, symmetry is part of the premium feel. So why would Apple allow asymmetry on a 2,000-plus foldable iPhone? The most likely explanation is engineering. Foldables are brutal on structure. Hinges, frame rigidity, display tension, impact resistance, and long-term durability all become harder when a device literally bends in half. The asymmetrical corner design could be Apple prioritizing strength, hinge protection, and internal spacing over perfect visual symmetry. In other words, Apple may be designing the iPhone Ultra Fold to survive real use, not just look good in renders. Now look at the cameras. The iPhone Ultra Fold is rumored to ditch Apple's recent vertical camera styling in favor of a horizontal camera layout, similar to what leaks have shown on the iPhone Air design direction. A horizontal camera bar isn't just a cosmetic change. It can improve internal layout options, balance the device differently, and potentially help with foldable constraints like thickness distribution and hinge packaging. There's another camera change that stands out in the leaks: the inner camera placement. Instead of being centered like Apple usually prefers, it's reportedly moved to the top left corner of the inner display. That's a major shift for Apple design philosophy, and it hints at a practical goal. With foldable displays, you often have to choose between symmetry and usability. A corner placement could work better for landscape mode, the way most people will use a 4:3 inner display for work, multitasking, and video calls. In simple terms, the iPhone Ultra Fold design leaks suggest Apple is adapting its usual iPhone rules to match the realities of foldable hardware. Next, color strategy. Leaks claim Apple might release the first-generation iPhone Ultra Fold in only one color, reportedly white. That sounds limiting, but it's not out of character for Apple when entering a new category or launching a first-generation concept product. A single color reduces complexity in manufacturing, quality control, finishes, coatings, and yield rates, especially important when the device is already difficult to build due to the hinge, flexible display layers, and structural tolerances. If Apple truly goes with one color, it also reinforces the luxury statement product positioning, a clean, minimal iconic look that's meant to feel exclusive, not mass market, not playful. A premium flagship that says, "This is the foldable iPhone, version 1. Now let's get into the most searched part of this entire leak cycle, the missing features. The headline around this device is that Apple may be ditching at least one key feature to make the iPhone Ultra Fold possible, starting with the action button. Reports suggest the action button could be removed entirely due to space constraints. On a normal iPhone, adding a button is easy. On a foldable iPhone, every millimeter is a fight. The internal components compete with hinge mechanics, reinforcement plates, display routing, battery segmentation, antenna design, and heat dissipation. A foldable design forces trade-offs. If Apple removes the action button, it's likely because the foldable chassis needs fewer openings, fewer failure points, and cleaner internal routing. Buttons are also water resistance challenges, and foldables already have a harder time sealing compared to slab phones. Apple may be choosing durability and structural simplicity over an extra hardware control, especially if iOS 27 can replicate many button-based actions through software. The ICE. Second potential sacrifice is even bigger. MagSafe. MagSafe has become a core part of the iPhone ecosystem. Wireless charging alignment, magnetic wallets, magnetic stands, car mounts, battery packs, creator rigs, and more. The idea that MagSafe might not be included in the iPhone Ultra Fold is a big deal, because it would instantly affect accessory compatibility and buyer expectations. So why would Apple drop MagSafe on its most expensive iPhone? A foldable phone changes the physics of wireless charging and magnet placement. The internal structure is split, thickness varies, the hinge area complicates coil alignment, and magnets could interfere with new internal components or structural reinforcements. Apple may also be working through heat and charging efficiency issues specific to foldables. Wireless charging generates heat, and heat management becomes far more complicated when your device has flexible display layers and hinge-adjacent components. At this stage, MagSafe compatibility is still uncertain, but the fact it's even in question tells you how different the iPhone Ultra Fold may be from a normal iPhone. Apple may be prioritizing foldable reliability and internal engineering over maintaining every familiar iPhone feature. Now let's talk market positioning, because it explains everything. The iPhone Ultra Fold is rumored to cost over $2,000. That pricing puts it firmly in luxury flagship territory, aimed at early adopters, Apple super users, business professionals, and people who want the newest category-defining hardware regardless of price. This is not Apple trying to outsell regular iPhones. This is Apple creating a halo device, a premium foldable iPhone that sets expectations for quality, display refinement, and software integration. And here's the key difference between Apple and many foldable competitors. The leaks suggest Apple is focusing heavily on crease reduction. Most foldable users accept the crease as part of the experience, but it's still one of the biggest mainstream complaints. Apple reportedly wants to minimize the visible fold line as much as possible, even if it means the device is not the thinnest or sleekest compared to competitors. This fits Apple's pattern. They'd rather be slightly later to a category than ship something that feels compromised. So while other foldables may chase thinness and flashy industrial design, Apple's foldable iPhone strategy appears to be make it durable, make it practical, make it feel premium, and make the software experience so smooth that people forget they're using a first-generation device. Which brings us to software, arguably Apple's biggest advantage. The iPhone Ultra Fold is expected to launch into an ecosystem that can adapt quickly, and leaks suggest iOS 27 will include foldable-specific optimizations. This is where Apple can separate itself from the pack, because foldables aren't only about hardware. Many foldable phones have impressive displays and hinges, but the software experience can feel unfinished. Apps don't scale well, multitasking feels inconsistent, and interfaces don't always adapt smoothly.